My family has always been in manufacturing. My father and my brother-in-law, Ben, ran a mid-sized firm that produced specialized hardware. It was dull, reliable work. My career, however, was in industrial design. I created products, sleek, beautiful, functional consumer electronics. I ran a small, anonymous firm called Aura Design. Whenever I visited home, they'd laugh. "Still doing your little CD drawings, Chloe?" Ben would boom. My sister, Maya, would chime in, "It's a fine hobby, but when are you going to get serious like Ben?" To them, anything that didn't involve a factory floor and a time clock was a hobby. The truth was, Aura Design was pulling in 7 figures, but I kept my success secret. I knew if my family knew I had money, they'd see it as a communal resource. One Thanksgiving, the atmosphere was tight. Ben's company was teetering. They had lost their biggest client, TechLide, a massive consumer hardware company, because their last few designs were stale. They were desperate. Maya cornered me. "Chloe, you're so good with shapes and things. Can you just draw up a quick concept for a new cooling unit? Ben needs to show TechLide something fresh, just to get his foot back in the door. You know, a free favor for family." I was reluctant, but I hated seeing my sister worried. Against my better judgment, I spent 3 all-nighters designing a revolutionary, patented-pending magnetic cooling fan. It was stunning. I gave them the basic rendering and a detailed spec sheet, with one firm boundary: this is concept only. No production. Ben and Maya won the TechLide contract. They were ecstatic. They hosted a celebratory dinner where they toasted their genius and Ben's vision. They even brought up my design to mock it slightly. "That little fan Chloe drew was cute," Ben chuckled. We had to ditch the magnet idea, though. Too expensive. I just smiled and nodded. I knew they were lying. The following month, TechLide launched their new product line. I bought the new cooling unit, and there it was. My design. My exact magnetic cooling fan, down to the millimeter. They hadn't just used my concept, they had stolen my proprietary schematics and filed their own, slightly tweaked patent on it. They had lied, filed paperwork, and committed outright intellectual property theft. I confronted Maya, showing her the side-by-side comparison. "You stole my work, Maya. You used my design and filed a fake patent." She didn't deny it. "We were desperate, Chloe. And you weren't using it. Ben is the breadwinner. This is a real business that supports our family, not a digital doodle. You should be happy you helped us save everything." The casual dismissal of my work as a doodle, the self-serving justification for theft, that was the final, profound insult. I realized they saw me not as a sister, but as a secret, unpaid R&D department. At that moment, I stopped being their sister and started being their competitor. I couldn't sue them immediately. A public lawsuit would drag my name into their mess and potentially invalidate my own patent on the original design. I needed a cleaner, faster resolution. I needed to control their fate. I began researching their business, not as a relative, but as an acquiring entity. I didn't want their failing company. I wanted control over their means of production. I discovered Ben's company was heavily reliant on a single, medium-sized contract manufacturing plant in the next state, Apex Hardware. Apex was owned by a small, retiring investor who was looking to liquidate his assets quickly. This was the opening. I diverted my firm's capital and secured a massive private equity loan. I worked with a team of lawyers and financial analysts, all of them under strict NDAs, to move fast and quietly. Within 3 months, through a newly formed holding group, Ascendant Manufacturing, I acquired 100% of Apex Hardware. I bought the factory, the equipment, and all existing contracts. My sister and Ben continued to mock my hobby, completely unaware that the factory where their very future was being built now belonged to me. 3 weeks after the acquisition closed, Ben called a family meeting. He was panicking. TechLide was demanding a huge rush order, and Apex Hardware, the factory, had suddenly delayed all of their production slots. We all gathered in my parents' living room. Ben was furious. "I don't know what's going on, but Apex is holding us hostage. We'll miss the TechLide deadline and lose the contract." Maya looked at me hopeful. "Chloe, can you talk to someone? You know how those manufacturing people operate." Maybe they need a cash bribe or something. I pulled out a sleek, black leather-bound binder and placed it on the coffee table. Ben, Maya, Mom, Dad. Let's talk about the supply chain reality of your business. I opened the binder to the first page, a clean, official notice of termination of manufacturing contract from Apex Hardware to Ben's company. Ben, Apex isn't holding you hostage, I said, my voice calm but absolute. Apex is following my instructions. You see, since 2 weeks ago, I, Chloe, through Ascendant Manufacturing, have been the sole owner of Apex Hardware. Silence crashed over the room. Ben's face turned an ugly shade of red. You bought the factory? Maya whispered, the realization hitting her. Yes, the very factory that allows you to fulfill the contract you stole from me, I confirmed. My first act as the new owner was to review all standing contracts and terminate any business that relies on stolen intellectual property. Yours was first. I presented the next page, a copy of my original patent application for the magnetic fan, dated 6 months before their fraudulent filing. You called my work a doodle. You stole my design. And now I am revoking your ability to fulfill that contract, which will cost you TechGlide entirely. Ben lunged at the table, shouting about betrayal, but my father stopped him. The reality had landed. I didn't need a lawsuit. I had executed a vertical integration revenge. Ben's company collapsed within the month. They lost the TechGlide contract and all their operating credit. They had bet their entire future on a stolen design, and I removed their ability to profit from it. My family was devastated. My parents accused me of destroying the family name for spite. Spite? I countered. No, Mom. This was not spite. This was protecting my career from thieves. You enabled them to steal from the one person in this family who actually built something sustainable. I used the Apex factory to begin production of my own cooling unit, launching it directly to TechGlide's competitors. My company, Aura Design, became a full-service design-to-manufacture firm, turning a painful betrayal into a massive business victory. I still attend family events, but the dynamic is entirely different. They talk about Ben's old business in hushed tones. They never, ever ask me for favors. I learned that day that some people don't see your hard work. They only see a means to an end. My hobby wasn't a joke. It was a multi-million-dollar shield. And now, no one is laughing. Ben exploded. He knocked the binder off the table, screaming about me being a snake and a traitor. Maya just cried, but not out of shame, out of self-pity. My father, surprisingly, was quiet, staring at the termination notice as the scale of my move finally registered. Ben immediately threatened a lawsuit. You can't just terminate a contract like that, Chloe. We have standing orders. Oh, but I can, Ben, I replied, regaining my composure and picking up the binder. Because this isn't personal, it's business. And your business relied on stolen IP. My lawyers already filed a counterclaim with the state patent office, invalidating your version based on my prior art. I presented the final document, an official copy of the complaint filed by TechGlide against Ben's company for breach of contract and failure to deliver. TechGlide doesn't wait. They're already suing you for 7 figures in damages. Since your company has no assets, because its factory is mine, you are personally liable. The room went silent again, heavier this time. They realized I hadn't just terminated them, I had legally boxed them into an inescapable corner. My family had spent years dismissing my hobby, while I was quietly mastering the legal and financial levers of the corporate world. The next day, my parents showed up at my actual office, the one they never knew about, housed in a high-rise downtown. My mother was sobbing, my father stoic but defeated. Chloe, my father started, his voice barely a whisper. You need to fix this. You've destroyed them. Liam can't get a job. They're losing their house. They're losing their house because they stole. Dad, I corrected him. You're asking me to bail out their crime. You're asking me to sacrifice my multi-million-dollar asset, the one I secretly acquired to save my reputation, to protect the thieves you enabled. My mother pulled out the ultimate weapon, guilt. But their family. You have so much. Can't you just sell Ben the factory at a loss? Just save your sister. You always saw my success as your safety net, Mom. My time, my skill, my money, it was all available for free, while Ben was the real success, I said, leaning over my massive glass desk. This entire scenario is the consequence of your favoritism and their greed. I will not fix it. I will not compromise my business to reward bad behavior. I have drawn my line. I offered them a compromise, a quiet severance. I will pay off the outstanding debt on Ben and Maya's personal residence, ensuring the kids have a roof over their head, but on one condition. Ben and Maya sign a permanent NDA and non-compete agreement regarding all design work, and they never contact me for professional or financial assistance again. Ever. They hesitated, but they had no choice. The fallout was immediate and clean. Ben and Maya signed the agreement. I paid their mortgage off, ensuring they had their house, but zero control over their future income. They faded into obscurity. Meanwhile, I used Apex hardware to revolutionize Aura design. I rebranded the factory as Aura Manufacturing and used its capability to launch my own line of magnetic cooling components, selling directly to TechGlide's biggest competitors. My firm went from a secretive design house to a full design-to-manufacture powerhouse. The TechGlide client, realizing their mistake, tried to hire me directly. I declined, but accepted a massive consulting contract on my terms at 10 times my previous rates. I was no longer an option. I was the essential, indispensable source. My parents watched from the sidelines. They saw the trade publications featuring me, Dr. Chloe Rhodes, the CEO of the vertically integrated Aura Group. The woman they had dismissed as a hobbyist now dominated their industry. I still visit my parents, but the atmosphere has fundamentally changed. The condescension is gone, replaced by a profound, uncomfortable respect. The last time I saw Ben and Maya was at a distance at a family event. They are working minimum wage jobs, struggling. They look small, defeated. They didn't even try to make eye contact. They had learned their lesson not through words, but through the devastating consequences of their own actions. My father sometimes tries to praise me now, telling me how proud he is. I accept it politely, but I know the praise is based on my net worth, not my character. The relationship remains cordial but distant. I've exchanged warmth for control. The best part? I can finally be open about my success. The secrecy is gone. I am no longer afraid of being exploited, because I proved I am the most powerful force in the room. The truth is, I miss the illusion of a normal family, but I cherish the reality of my independence. My life isn't built on inherited wealth or stolen ideas. It's built on my own genius and financial discipline. I learned that day that some people only understand the value of your work when you completely remove their ability to profit from it. You have to draw a line so sharp, so clear, that there is no possibility of stepping over it again. My hobby wasn't a joke, it was a multi-million-dollar shield. And now I stand alone at the top of the empire I built, finally, absolutely and undeniably respected.